Welcome. I'm Professor Darius, and this is African Elements. Sociology is the study of human society. However, mainstream frameworks for understanding social relations between African Americans and whites have suffered severe limitations. In this video, we'll explore the significance of Black sociology and addressing some of those limitations. All that coming up next. Thank you for watching African Elements. If you're new to this channel, we produce content in Black and Africana studies and bring it right here where the people are at. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Or you can even become one of the history makers in our growing Patreon community. That said, let's jump in. Sociology is the study of human society in all of its aspects. This includes social structure, institutions, organizations, culture, history, economics, politics, and among other things, race relations. However, conventional social theories have suffered from limitations stemming from embedded racism, a narrowly focused Eurocentric framework, and fundamental misinterpretations of the experience of non-white people. As a result, prevailing theoretical models have failed to see beyond their own myopic, culturally biased worldview. Black sociology emerged in response to mainstream white American sociology's failure to address the condition of African Americans in the United States. Central to its development was the recognition that Black sociology is required sociological knowledge when interpreting the social condition of Black people. Black sociology focuses on addressing specific conditions of Black people by centering on the lives and experiences of Black people. So why is it necessary to create an alternative framework? Up to the 1960s, mainstream sociologists tended to look at race relations based primarily on how various groups contrasted with white societal norms. In doing so, much of the sociological perspective studied, analyzed, and interpreted African Americans' behaviors, attitudes, experiences through an assimilation lens. Assimilation occurs when an individual or group adopts another culture's values, beliefs, customs, and practices. This may be done voluntarily or involuntarily. White sociologists tended to view assimilation as the goal that led to social harmony, and saw African Americans' failure to assimilate as the problem. The order-equilibrium model of society, in which primacy was given to such concepts as adaptation, adjustment, and normative consensus. From the order perspective, society is a structural arrangement made up of interdependent parts, each contributing to the equilibrium of the system. Accordingly, any phenomenon that upsets this equilibrium is regarded as problematic and must be resolved so that the system may be restored. In short, the problem of race relations tended to be pathologized within Black people instead of looking at the flaws within societal structure itself. In pathologizing the so-called race problem and locating it within the Black community, sociologists treated African Americans' behaviors, attitudes, and beliefs as a social illness needing correction. As a result, the bulk of the literature in the 1960s was devoted to documenting the deprivations of Blacks and the tangle of pathology that was alleged to characterize Black communities as a result of segregation, discrimination, and exclusion from the mainstream American life. Sociological emphasis on pathologies of Black communities created a tendency among sociologists to view the major barriers to racial integration as residing in the socio-cultural characteristics of the Black minority itself, rather than in racism of the dominant society. In their short-sightedness, white sociologists missed the mark in foreseeing the racial upheaval accompanying integration. Assuming that prejudice, discrimination, and institutional racism were incompatible with the forces of modernization and would wither away, sociologists of race relations took for granted that racial progress and integration would be accomplished without conflict and disorder. This perspective and its assumptions left sociologists ill-equipped to anticipate, much less explain, the racial crisis of the mid and late 1960s. In the late 1960s, Black studies emerged to challenge the status quo and present alternative perspectives on Black America. It advanced new theories that better explain the relationship between the Black community and society at large from a Black perspective. The call for a Black perspective in social science research was inspired by the belief that the theoretical constructs and methodologies of white social scientists had yielded a distorted view of the African American experience. In correcting the dominant myths, stereotypes, and misinterpretations of the Black experience presented in the sociological literature, Black sociology aimed to define, conceptualize, and theorize the Black experience in order to improve our understanding of race relations in America. In advancing those new conceptual models, Black sociologists have helped refine the discipline by challenging the language mainstream sociologists use to describe the race problem. Because of the criticism and scholarship of Black scholars, some of the terms that were prominent in previous research and the writing of African Americans have been discarded. For example, under the Johnson administration in 1965, the United States Secretary of Labor appointed Daniel Patrick Moynihan to study poverty in America. His report, The Negro Family, The Case for National Action, described what he called a tangle of pathology. He basically argued that the problem with Black families was that Black women were running them. In essence, the Negro community has been forced into a matriarchal structure which, because it is out of line with the rest of American society, seriously retards the progress of the group as a whole and imposes a crushing burden on the Negro male and, in consequence, on a great many Negro women as well. Black sociologists have correctly pointed out that pathologizing Black family structures for not conforming to white standards misunderstands the problem. As a result, the term matriarchy has been abandoned in favor of terms that better reflect the structural diversity of such families. The term race relations has likewise fallen into disrepute, with greater emphasis given on racism and racial oppression as appropriate objects of analysis. Likewise, such terms as assimilation and integration are given little recognition in the contemporary literature, at least in reference to African Americans. Black feminist scholars have also contributed significantly to the study of race, class, gender, and sexuality through an Afrocentric feminist perspective. For example, Columbia University Law School professor Kimberly Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality in 1989. She used it to describe how Black women were systematically discriminated against as African Americans while simultaneously experiencing different forms of oppression as women. Other contemporary Black sociologists who have enriched the field of sociology include Walter Allen, Elijah Anderson, Andrew Billingsley, Lawrence Bobo, Patricia Hill Collins, Joyce Ladner, Orlando Patterson, Doris Wilkin, and William J. Wilson. Without their contributions, we would be much less informed about issues related to race, ethnicity, and culture. I'm Professor Darius Spearman, and if you're still watching, please consider joining the history makers in our Patreon community who make it possible for me to continue to make this content. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to become a history maker, you can join them for as little as $1 a month. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the comments.